of course, I was gonna watch this movie. This was like my most anticipated film of the year. So yeah, in case you didn't know, I'm a huge Sonic fan, and I just saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. First things first, let's just get this out of the way. This was an amazing film. Absolutely great job by Jeff Fowler and the entire team. Everyone that worked on this film did an absolutely amazing job and did a good service to Sonic fans. Now, this film isn't perfect. There are things to discuss, which I will bring up and I will criticize, but overall, this is a very, very good film, and Sonic fans will absolutely love it. In fact, this is the best out of the trilogy, and I can't believe that is also a thing. There's now 3 of these films that are all decently good, with some issues here and there throughout the series, but yeah, and this includes the TV series, which isn't really that bad, but it's pretty good. So yeah, in this review, first thing to know, I am very biased. There's definitely going to be a lot of glazing going on with this film. I'm going to do my best to realize what is an issue with the film and try not to overall just say like, oh, this movie's perfect, this is a 10 out of 10, because that's not what I would give this film. But yeah, first off, just wanted to talk about the movie franchise in general. So far, these movies have been absolutely successful. The first Sonic the Hedgehog movie did an amazing job. I thought it was pretty good, pretty decent. There were some issues here and there, mainly with it being very cheesy, very corny, and, very predictable as far as what was going to happen in the plot. I thought there was a lot of focus on characters that wasn't Sonic the Hedgehog, and I kind of understand that. Sonic is a fully CGI character that at one point had to be fully remade because he just looked so god-awful. I don't need to talk about ugly Sonic, everyone knows about it. But yeah, Sonic is probably very expensive to make, and my heart goes out to all the animators that ever had to work on him, especially those who were let go. Obviously, there was some drama with the very first film and how the animators that helped save the Sonic movie franchise were let go, and I can only hope that they were able to find work. But yeah, with that, the second film came out, and it pretty much learned from the first movie. They decided to have 2 new characters, with Tails and Knuckles being introduced. Also being a really good film. Slightly better than the first film, I would say. There was definitely more emphasis on the humans part, and there was even a scene where it became like Wedding Crashers, kind of, and like the film just focused way too much on this, and it kind of broke the pacing. It didn't totally ruin the movie, but overall it was still a decently good movie, especially with how it ended. Obviously, Sonic going supersonic was one of the things we wanted to see in this film, and they fucking did it at the end of the second one. Then we have the Knuckles series, which I didn't really make a video on, but overall, I thought the series is okay. Obviously, it's not like what a lot of people expected it to be. I would have loved there to be more Knuckles in it and less Wade, but one thing to understand is they probably had a specific budget and could only afford certain time with animating Knuckles. The scenes that we did get with Knuckles were all really, really great, so it's very short and sweet, if anything. Nothing too crazy. It didn't totally ruin anything as far as the franchises. And hey, it even got nominated for the Game Awards for adaptation. Granted, it didn't win, but hey, getting nominated is still pretty good. But yeah, overall, the Sonic movie franchise as a whole has definitely been really just good overall, with moments here and there that would teeter on the side of being just really great, but nothing fantastic or amazing or almost perfect. But not with this film. I would say there's a lot of moments in this film that has a lot of amazing, if not fantastic, nearly perfect moments that people definitely will want to see. Typically, when I do movie reviews, I like to talk about sections of the film and talk about those specifics and how they overall impacted the film, and talk about if it was good or bad, and then I like to go over the entire plot. So that's pretty much how I'm going to do things. So before I even start talking, I want to let everyone know, like I said, please watch this film, especially if you like Sonic, especially if you have kids or family members that like Sonic the Hedgehog. They will love this film, I promise you. Hell, if you even liked Sonic Adventure 2 back in the day, or Sonic Adventure, and you decided to say, fuck Sonic, he's been cringe, the games are bad, the movie's bad, trust me, come back and just watch this film. Hell, you don't even really need to watch Sonic 1 and 2, but trust me when I say this, anyone who has an interest in Sonic will want to watch this movie. You definitely want to. So obviously, by the marketing, this film includes now Shadow the Hedgehog, who was teased at the last movie, being voiced by Keanu Reeves, which I gotta say is definitely an amazing pick. Not only does he fit the character really well, but Keanu is definitely, at least it seems like, he's definitely one of those people who gets very passionate about his roles that he's in, almost as if he like really loves doing it. I mean, like, obviously you want people who love their job, but like Keanu was even studying up on Shadow's character character. And it's like, what all? Who all do you know who all does that? Keanu does, and obviously everyone knows Keanu Reeves from John Wick, The Matrix, even in Cyberpunk. He's just a really good voice actor. He's even a decent actor, if anything, even though his roles aren't always like the most deep, but still, everyone will always love seeing him. We have Jim Carrey, who we all assumed he was going to be done with acting, decided to come back to not only play Dr. Eggman, but to play Gerald Robotnik. So now he's playing Dr. Eggman, and I think he did an amazing job with this role. I think he really killed it, and I really thought he gave his best. It really seems like the director told him to just be Jim Carrey and just do what you want to do. You can definitely feel that in this film. As far as I know, everyone reprises their role. As far as the acting goes, I thought everyone did an amazing job. They did bring back Randall and Rachel for a small scene in the film, and obviously it was them, but there's a reason behind it. But yeah, they were brought back for a very small scene, and they really did a good job, even though it was very small. Wade Whipple also came back for this film, also had probably the smallest scene in the entire film. Still pretty funny. Got a chuckle out of his one scene that he had, and I thought he did a good job. There were some new characters in this film as well, other new characters. There's director Rockwell, who is kind of like this general at gun who kind of oversees a lot of other people. She's definitely in charge, and for her performance, I thought she did pretty fine. She didn't really have much to do, but besides like chase Sonic, but you'll understand why if you decide to keep listening. We had a character for Maria, who was in this film, because of course you can't have Shadow the Hedgehog without Maria, and understanding their relationship. And I thought, for the scenes that she was in, it was still pretty okay. I understand this person is, I don't really know if she's like a teen or whatever, because I know sometimes they have like adults playing like children, but for her role, I think she did pretty good. I wanted it to be just a little bit better. I didn't really quite see Maria in this character, or this actor, or actress, I should say, I'm sorry. But yeah, I didn't really see Maria like I wanted to, but she still did a fine job. She also had very few scenes in this film as well. Agent Stone comes back, and he is just as funny as ever. He definitely does an amazing job with what he's given, and honestly, I feel like the franchise cannot go on without him. I don't know why, but his character is just really well done. His name is Lee, and he's just a really nice person, honestly, and I really am glad that he's part of this franchise. With there being two Dr. Eggman, Gerald, and Eggman, Iva Eggman, it pretty much gave the opportunity for Jim Carrey to pretty much do whatever he wanted, and there was definitely some wacky moments in this film. Some of the wackiness definitely got in the way with the pacing, but it didn't last too long. It wasn't too noticeable. There was one scene that involved them, and the key word is lasers, and you'll know what I mean when you see it. But the scene with the lasers, it was just a tad, and I mean the slightest bit of like, too much. But again, it didn't like, I didn't walk out of this film and be like, wow, I really wish they could have dialed that back. It's more like just probably ease up on that scene, is I would have said, to like make it more perfect. Sonic now having to be the leader of this whole new team means that he has to be more responsible. He's now more seen as a leader of Team Sonic, comprised of Knuckles and Tails and Sonic, of course. And there's also a scene where Tom has to teach Sonic about, not letting your past and the sadness that happened change who you are as a character, because it's all about, family and friends and, all the things they teach throughout the Sonic movies. Everyone knows these things. Basically, don't be evil. Find what's in here inside you. You're all good. I'm probably butchering it very horribly. Maddie, of course, is also in this film, because you can't have Tom without Maddie, and I've always thought that she doesn't seem like she's giving her best performance in this films, and I feel like with other characters, well, just in general, there was a lot less, human-only scenes, because one of the whole big things is people want to see Sonic for the characters, and they don't care about the humans. But Maddie and Tom and of course a lot of other human characters weren't in this film as aggressively as they were in the last two. They were definitely in this film, and there was definitely like scenes with just them, but it wasn't like as crazy as it was, and it wasn't like noticeably like bad. I wouldn't even say bad, because obviously any scene with any of these characters are never really truly bad, but just very invasive. But yeah, like I said, they weren't, it was fine for what they did. Honestly, I would rather them just ease up on the humans only scenes, just the tiniest of bits, going forward. And yeah, I would honestly like it the way it is. Like, obviously we need to have human characters. It's going to be fucking expensive to have just only anthropomorphic animals, but maybe one day we'll get there, but not yet. Obviously this is a live action film with animation in it, so yeah, there has to be humans. I mentioned about it before, but the writing for this film feels like it was an upgrade from the last film. There's a lot of moments where it's very, you know, unknown of what's going on. It definitely feels a little dark at times, and like you definitely get the feeling like, oh shit, what the hell is going on? And you got to tell yourself, wow, this is a kids movie? What are they doing? Holy shit. But honestly, it's a really good thing that films do this. I really like it when you can have a kids movie but also be a bit mature about it, because you're basically like letting your audience feel like they're more mature than they really are. But obviously also, if you're going to have a film about Shadow the Hedgehog and knowing his past, it's definitely going to get a little edgy at times. Now, I know I don't want to say edgy because that's like very incorrect of Shadow, but it's definitely got to be a bit dark if we're going to have Shadow the Hedgehog in this. Throughout the film, we had multiple settings, of course. We even got to see Sonic's original hideout from the first film. We got to go to Tokyo and got to even see what a Chow Garden is. It's kind of funny because the Chows are just never explained, and it's not really confirmed if they came from Sonic's world or a different world, or if they're just here in this world, but they're just here. And it's kind of weird because chows are actually a thing, but who really knows? It could just be that chows are just always from Earth, so yeah. Even go to see London, you know, London. That's where the gun headquarters is, and that's where some of the plot takes place. Then we even got to see scenes of outer space, and I don't want to say what happens afterwards, but yeah, we go to outer space because it involves the Eclipse Cannon. And again, right now I'm talking about scenes based on the trailers, so this isn't spoilers, so hopefully by now, if you're watching or listening this far, you should have at least seen the 2 main trailers that have come out. As far as the animation goes, I thought it was pretty good. You know, it's pretty much the same as what it was before, but they really have a lot of scenes where Shadow is just emphasized, and it really shows how angry and pissed off he looks. It's even come to like everyone's attention that it really gets very uncanny and very cringe to look at whenever we see characters' teeth, like Sonic or Knuckles or Shadow. If we see a zoomed in close-up of their teeth, that's when it kind of looks a bit ugly. It's just like, ugh, they got teeth. You don't really want to see that. But other than that, everyone looked absolutely fantastic. Shadow was pretty much a one-for-one recreation. You know, they did it pretty great. They always do this thing with the Sonic characters where their gloves and shoes are a bit modern as far as they're like of how it looks and its tech, because Shadow has like these hover boots and you can teleport and everything, so it's not like plasticky. It doesn't look like very, you know, simple. It's very high-tech looking. I don't want to talk too much about cinematography because there's definitely a specific sequence of scenes that happens that involves cinematography, and that's when it's really at its best. But overall, I can say they did a really good job with their cinematography, even though that more goes in line with their editing and how that goes, because, you know, they didn't really film certain characters running and flying at crazy speeds and jumping off of things. But yeah, they did a good job with the camera work and the angles they decided to show. I also don't want to talk about the music at all just yet. Obviously, if you see the news, then you might have an idea of what is going to be in here, but from what I can say, they did a really good job. During the Chow Garden, they play a like Japanese version of, what's it called? I Want You Back? Yeah, by Jackson 5. So that was pretty cute. There's some Sonic songs that get like, you know, little like rhythm or tunes that's playing in the background, but there's obviously there's something else I want to talk about when it comes to the music, but so that's all I can say. I think they did a really good job. I really wish there was a little bit more. Apparently there is a theme from a certain level in a Sonic game that I don't want to say it, that it was in the film. I didn't really hear it, but apparently it was in the film. As far as the originality goes, the director said if you like Sonic Adventure 2, you'll like this film. They pretty much did a really good job with what they're given. They obviously didn't recreate the game because there's certain characters who are not in this film at all. Like, sorry, you know, obviously Rouge the Bat isn't in this fucking film, or like other characters like Cream and Cheese or Big the Cat. They're not in this film. Obviously, we've seen them all. But based on how the story is going with the characters we had so far, it pretty much like eases to a, you know, a good representation of what Sonic Adventure 2 is. Kind of like how Sonic 2 was trying to like recreate like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. back on the Genesis. Really overall just liked so much about this film. Like I said it before, the director and the people who made this movie are clearly big Sonic fans, and they're almost doing this film too much justice. I almost don't want to say this, but like I can't think of another video game franchise that gets this much love and like attention done to certain things that just makes the fans of the franchise just so happy. Like, it's so rare to see that, where like the people making these live actions or these adaptations of projects from games, they actually do want to do it justice and service, unlike the fucking Halo franchise, who doesn't give a shit about Halo at all and is really just doing it for a paycheck. So fuck you, Paramount. I don't understand how you hire people to make Halo, but then you two doesn't give a shit about it, but then you get the biggest Sonic fans in the world, or like people who love Sonic, to do Sonic. I don't know. Obviously, that's another day. I mentioned it before, but there are things that I don't like about this film. It's still the cheesiness. Obviously, this movie can't be perfect. The movie is definitely going to be cheesy, but overall, it's not like the worst thing ever. I personally would love a Sonic film where there wasn't that much cheese and corny jokes, and this film definitely had some cheese and some corn. See what I did there? Yeah, whatever. But yeah, this is obviously for kids, so who the fuck cares what I think? It's obviously trying to just make the kids laugh and, you know, keep them entertained and have them point at the screen and be like, oh, I know what that means, even though that's what I was doing when I was like, oh, look. Quick side rant, obviously this is a kids movie and it was good anyway, but even if this was bad, it still doesn't matter. You can still like the film whether it was good or bad. Obviously no film is going to be perfect, except a few, but still, it's not going to be perfect. Don't get upset because other people didn't like it or love it as much. Obviously I'm not going to give this film a perfect score because it's Sonic. That's never going to happen. As much as I want to, I'm not going to. I really felt attached to certain characters like Sonic. There's definitely a moment where Sonic came to a realization about his status and his team, and like because of a certain thing that happened, you definitely feel for Sonic and you're like, oh no, Sonic, please don't do this, and you almost feel really, really bad. And like I feel like if I was just a bit more emotional, I probably could have shed a tiny tear, but I didn't. But still, there is moments in this film where you feel so sorry for Sonic, and it's just crazy about what's going on. This film has a lot of things that happen, and it causes Sonic to really like just get real mad. Let's just say that. Last thing I want to talk about, it's not really a surprise. I mean, honestly, Jeff Fowler said that as long as the fans keep wanting more, or at least he said as long as these movies keep doing really good as far as like performances and like I'm assuming the box office, they're gonna keep making more, and they want to keep making more. So I'm really happy to say that they are making a Sonic the Hedgehog 4 that is scheduled for 2027, I believe in spring. But yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is happening, and I can't wait to see Zavok. So now I'm going to do my absolute hardest to try to just explain the entire plot. I'm giving you an extra long warning to get the fuck out if you don't want to be spoiled. If you don't give a shit, or if you've seen the movie just like me, then go ahead and keep watching. But I don't want to hear anyone complaining or crying that I didn't give them a warning. I'm even going to put it on the screen right now. Here, you see it? There's a countdown. I'm probably not going to put a countdown, but I'm going to let you know. Skip to this part in the video. Again, why are you here? If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I hear if you pay for AMC Plus, you can get 3 free movies. You can watch this, watch Mufasa, watch Nosferatu, watch Craven. You can watch Wicked, Gladiator 2, I think Memoir of a Snail. Yeah, you could buy some popcorn as merch. Merch was pretty good. I'm just stalling for time. I got a bucket head. I put pots of candy and popcorn in Sonic head. This is your last warning. 3, 2, 1, and... So yeah, now let's start talking about the film. The film starts off by going over a backstory for Shadow the Hedgehog. All we know is that we see this black hedgehog who is kept in security on Prison Island, which shout out to Prison Island reference there. I'm just going to say shout out to that whenever we get a reference. Shadow is locked up, and he's in this like stasis chamber, this like water stasis chamber kind of, but he can still remember his past, and he remembers like what happened in the past. All we really see is that he's running away with Maria in his hand, or at least, again, I'm also going to assume everyone knows Sonic, but yeah, all we see is that him running away with a girl, and it seems like he's going to wake up, but he doesn't. and all the guards are scared because they're like, oh, good thing he didn't wake up. But unfortunately, Dr. Eggman was hacking the place because his insignia was on the computer screens, and yeah, Shadow woke up and kicked the shit out of those guards, and it was really fucking cool. Shadow then takes this opportunity to escape and head to Tokyo to cause more mayhem. We then cut to Sonic enjoying his, life with Knuckles, Tails, Tom, and Maddie, chilling, and they were going to have a little race to see how far they can go, and this takes an opportunity to go across Green Hill. We got to see some really cool shots. There was even a little reference to completing the game stages where the thing spun around, where it said gold. That happened. Sonic was like, oh yeah, he won the race because they were racing, and it turns out that he was racing holograms, so he runs back, and they surprise Sonic, everyone. They surprise Sonic with a birthday party, but more like a B-Earth party, because they don't really know his birthday, but it's been a year since Sonic has been on Earth. They take this opportunity to have some fun, eat some food, hang out, really enjoy life. Tom takes this opportunity to hang out with Sonic a little bit more and chat with him. They even go to his old hideout from the very first film, and they reminisce about Longclaw. This then leads to the scene where Tom talks to Sonic about being, yourself, not letting the past change you, even though you've had some crazy misfortunes. And he's happy to see Sonic just be a good leader and a good friend, of course. This is then interrupted. The whole party's interrupted by Gun. They tell them, hey, we need you to go to Tokyo. We need you to take care of this creature, this alien that's going on down in Tokyo. He's causing some shit, and we need you, Sonic. We can't do it without you. So they accept it. Team Sonic is made and form, and they fly down to Tokyo, and this is when we get a reference from Sonic Adventure 2 about low budget flights, and he says, I'm out of here, and everyone claps and cheers. Shout out to that reference. He dives in, and they're ready to figure out what's going on, and then they're introduced, or at least they're met with Shadow the Hedgehog, where they want to try to talk to him and just say like, hey bro, calm down, you're a hedgehog just like me. There was even some jokes about, why do you look like me? But obviously Sonic is like, why do you look like me? They want to just kind of imprison him, and because they have these certain handcuffs for him. But obviously Shadow's not going to let that happen. He takes down Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic very easily. And Shadow sees that they flew out from a gun helicopter, so he doesn't trust them at all. That's why he's very hostile towards them. He then takes this opportunity to get a motorcycle and a gun, which is really fucking cool. And he's like, all right, I'll see you guys later. Sonic obviously doesn't want to give up, so he chases Shadow. And, there's some banter between the two where they, say their catchphrases. Shadow was way more annoyed of Sonic than he usually is, and Sonic is just trying to be the funny guy. A lot of cool scenes follow with them chasing each other, which leads to this moment where Shadow just runs up a building with a motorcycle, and it's so fucking cool, and it jumps off of it from the sky, and Sonic jumps up, and they punch, and then the whole fucking city loses electricity because the punch is so powerful, and next thing we know, Shadow is gone. Sonic is handcuffed to a bar, and then they then tried to go to the Chow Garden to, figure out what's going on, get some answers from Gun, and figure out, what's up with Shadow. Here at the Chow Garden, there's some jokes about, Tails being a Pokemon, so that's just the thing in this universe. So Smash Bros. Movies, we're looking out for you. Then General Walter comes back as his reprised role and says like, hey, you guys should have taken care of Shadow. And Sonic's like, who the fuck is Shadow? Which, side note, this is one of those moments in the film where the pacing is kind of rushed because they sit down, they talk about stuff, and they instantly get into Shadow's backstory. That was a bit weird. I really wish they wouldn't have done those kind of things. But obviously this movie wasn't that long. It was, I believe, an hour and 50 minutes, so they had to get going. General Walter then explains the backstory behind Shadow and tells that Shadow is a creature that came down from a comet, wink, 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 Black Doom. And he was experimented on, he was tested, but unfortunately his powers were way too powerful and caused an explosion, and he had to get tied up. And obviously, to every Sonic fan, that is bull fucking shit. Never trust the government, even if it's the government in Sonic the Hedgehog. So this is the story he tells Sonic, and they obviously believe it. Then the garden, or the Chow Garden, the coffee shop, is attacked by Eggman drones, and they're like, oh shit, what's going on? And then they're saved by a mysterious person on a motorcycle, and it's not Shadow, obviously, but we then figure out that it's actually Agent Stone trying to destroy these robots, and Sonic and them eventually meet up with them. But afterwards, General Walter, I believe, dies, but I don't think he dies, but he gets really hurt, and he gives a command key of some sort to Sonic. He's like, hey, hold on to this and stop Shadow, basically. We then get introduced to director Rockwell. Well, actually, we've been seeing Rockwell. She's the new commander in this film, and she sees that Walter is really hurt or dead. I don't really know. And she's like, oh shit, Sonic must have did these to him. We should hunt him down. And now Sonic is on the run, but then they decide to chase down the person on the motorcycle. And that's when he reveals himself as Dr. Stone, and he's like, hey, those robots and everything that's been going on isn't by Eggman, because that's who they theorize is behind everything. And he's like, Dr. Eggman is actually here, and he takes him underwater. We then get to see Eggman, played by Jim Carrey, watching Latino romance movies, and he's like living the life, and his office, or his, you know, sanction that he's living in, is very dirty, very gross. He's like heating up burritos in one of his drones, and, you know, he's just letting, you know, himself go. And he then meets up with Sonic, and they're like, oh, what are you guys doing here? And they decide to team up. But in exchange, Sonic needs to give one of his quills to Eggman. Now, here's the thing. I theorized that this quill was going to be important to, you know, something in the future. When I said this is the spoiler section talk, I assume you've seen the post-credit scene. And I assumed that him getting this quill was him setting up Metal Sonic to be a threat, but it doesn't seem like that was the case. Anything, it's kind of weird why Eggman even wants this quill. It seems like he just wants it for the thrill and the shock. It doesn't seem to help him improve anything, but it's also important for him to know when Sonic was powering up. So I don't really know why Eggman wanted this quill so bad, but he got it. And Sonic was like, all right, we'll work together. Just take this, whatever. So they team up. Eggman gets a new outfit that's still pretty dirty, and he's his fat self. They go to the place where Shadow was last, you know, buried, where he last, you know, had a freak out explosion. Shadow was also there. He was thinking about the memories he had with Maria, and then we see in the shadow a new character, but don't want to talk about that just yet. Sonic and Eggman and Stone are all there. They have some banter back and forth, and they're looking for Shadow, and they assume he's there because Eggman realized that his drones were being taken by someone at this location. The gang splits up to try to find Shadow and whoever's behind these egg drones attack, and Shadow even scares Knuckles, which is really funny. I didn't think that was actually in the film. And Eggman gets split up from Sonic, and Eggman realizes that he's alone, and he finds out that his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, is alive, and he is just so funny in this film. Honestly, there was him and himself, Jim Carrey, just did an amazing job being so funny, and they even break the fourth wall. So that's pretty hilarious. So Eggman's like, oh, well, I guess I don't need Sonic anymore since I have my grandpa, and it turns out he's behind us. And now, yeah, they betray Sonic, or Eggman betrays Sonic, and he decides to also team up with Shadow and Dr. Stone. And yeah, it's basically a 4v3 because Tails and Knuckles got chained up to this pole. So like, all right, I'll see you later, bro. We're gonna go destroy the world. And Shadow leaves behind a wormhole, and this is when Sonic takes the opportunity to get out and use the teleporter ring to escape. Gerald assumes they are dead because he doesn't detect any life forms from the black hole that Shadow dropped. Also, Shadow took the key code that Sonic was holding. It's very important to the plot I'll get to in a minute. Then they head to the place where the other key code is, because they need two of them to activate the Eclipse Cannon. This is when Gerald talks about, hey, I need access to the Eclipse Cannon, and this is when Eggman's like, all right, let's get to London. It's going to be a while. As Sonic is escaping, he teams back up with Tom and Maddie, who, by the way, it's funny because my girlfriend predicted that Tom and Maddie were going to be so bored because Sonic and all them were off doing their mission, and the moment Sonic is like, we have an important, dangerous mission that we need your help with, they're like, yeah, let's just do it. We don't want to sit here, and that's exactly what happened. Tails has this technology that helps Tom and Maddie sneak into HQ because they need to get the other key code that has, you know, the possibility or the way to get to the Eclipse Cannon. That's what they're trying to do. They use the disguises to be Rachel and Randall, and it surprisingly works, and it's very funny how they manage this. The scene has just the humans in it, but it wasn't as like pace breaking as it was in the second film. Tails was still on the background, and they still cut to Sonic and Knuckles bantering, almost in a way it's like, don't worry guys, the humans are only here for just a few minutes, then we'll get back. Tails is still talking, don't worry. I didn't really mind this. It wasn't that bad. It would have been better if this wasn't even the scene that I was really talking about, but them sneaking into the basement of HQ of Gun, it wasn't that bad. They did this to get into the security so Tails can hack them and figure out where the final or the second key code is to access the Eclipse Cannon. Meanwhile, Eggman and Gerald and Shadow and Stone are all there. They made it to London as well. Eggman and Gerald are going to be the ones handling everything while Stone and Shadow watch Latina romance films, and it's almost too comical. Like, I genuinely think Jeff Fowler knows about the whole Shadow loves Latinas meme, and I genuinely think they were winking at us when they did this. So again, shout out to that. It's just really funny because if it isn't, this just makes the meme more validated in the fandom. Stone takes this opportunity to talk with Shadow for just a little bit, and he starts to get a little suspicious of Gerald because from Shadow it seems like he's going to be doing something way too fucked up, even though Gerald made it very clear that he was trying to like destroy the world or take it over. But I think in the film he didn't really say it as much. He was just gonna mainly rule over it, but in reality Gerald wants to blow it the fuck up. Shadow, being Shadow, doesn't really care as much because every time he thinks about Maria, he thinks about the pain that he felt from Maria dying. And throughout this film, we even got to learn what really happened. Shadow, and of course, if you know the game, you know what's going to happen. Shadow was an experiment that was worked on by Gerald, and he was an experiment that's origins is unknown because the story of Shadow coming from a comet was a lie because that's not what really happened. Gunn was lying to Sonic and all them. So obviously this leaves room to Shadow's real origin, but as far as the movie goes, he was an experiment by Gerald, and Maria befriended this experiment because he was alone and she was also alone. They played in the hallways of the lab that they were in. They also weren't in space. They were just an underground lab. And it doesn't seem like Maria had a disease in this film like she did in the games. But yeah, they bonded, they had fun, they watched movies. It was honestly really, really wholesome and heartwarming. And it's honestly the best when I get to see Shadow as a character being happy with Maria. Because obviously the tragedy of Maria passing and getting killed is just what defines Shadow. This is probably way later in the film, but it turns out that Maria, of course, did die. And because of what happened, Shadow had to get locked away. What really happened was Gunn was onto Gerald because Gerald was trying to do some sneaky shit with Shadow, and as they were escaping, a soldier, told Shadow and Maria, because they were running, like, hey, stop running, stop right there. And someone, it seemed like Walter, I don't know if it was Walter or somebody else, he was like, hey, don't shoot them, there's a girl right there, and then like accidentally triggers a gun, and it sets off a random tank on the side and explodes the like base. And that's technically the truth. There was an explosion, but Shadow didn't cause it. It was a misfire. This is definitely way different than the games, obviously. But yeah, Maria does die, and this has caused Shadow to be extremely depressed, extremely sad, because this is the one person he really loved and cared about. And because of this, he's been wanting revenge because of what happened. So he's told, like, hey, you can take revenge out on the world. And he's like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Also, it's Gerald, the one telling him. After this whole, shabacle with, the base being, exploded, Gerald being kind of responsible for it, he was arrested, but he made a deal with certain people about making an Eclipse Cannon, and when he gets out, he'll return on that deal. That really doesn't matter, but the Eclipse Cannon is made with Gerald's design and help. He even referenced the games because he was writing on the wall and he wrote the designs of it and everything. But yeah, back to the present. Sonic and them is making their way into the base. Tom and Maddie successfully hacked the gun system that allowed the security to go off, but Eggman and Gerald was already ahead of them. This is the scene where I was like, this could have been shortened by a little bit. It's the scene where Eggman and Gerald are making their way through the laser security, and they can't touch it because obviously it's lasers. So they decide to wear this like material suits that like lets them slide through and deflect lasers. And they decide to take this opportunity to have a dance moment, oh, excuse me, a whole song and dance. And Again, it's like, it's a bit goofy. It wasn't that bad. I would have liked it to, you know, chill out just the tiniest a bit. But it happened. It was over with, and they are about to get the key, but then the anti-gravity of the security room where the key is turns on. Rockwell traps them all, and they're like, oh, you're not gonna get this key. And then Knuckles shows up, Sonic shows up, everyone shows up, including Maddie and Tom and Tails and everything. Now, from what I remember, I believe it was Knuckles that came and smashed a pad that controlled the gravity of that room and caused everything to get fucked up. There was a moment where Tom was, you know, gravity pulled him to the ground really hard, and it seemed like a boulder was going to smash and basically kill him, but Sonic was able to power up because he was pinned down by the gravity. Everything was fucked up and weird. Some people were floating. He powered up and saved Tom, and I genuinely thought he was gonna die. There's a funny joke somewhere in the scene where Gerald's like, oh, women in the military, and they got a chuckle out of me. Afterwards, Rockwell has the security key, and she books it out of there. Gerald and Robotnik needs to book it out of there as well, because Shadow was also there beating everyone up. And Tom is like, hey, we need to get that key, so he has a plan to disguise himself as Walter, and he goes to find Rockwell and convinces her to give him the key, which somehow it works, which, by the way, there's like a little joke where Tom seemed a bit interested in Rockwell, and it's like, bro, you have a whole girlfriend. What's wrong with you, bro? So this happens. Tom has the key disguised as Walter, and then Shadow shows up, sees Walter, and it's like, oh, it's fucking you. And then Tom's like, oh, no. And then Shadow proceeds to punch the ever-living shit out of Tom, who he thinks is Walter. But the disguise goes away, and Shadow's like, oh, what did I do? It doesn't really matter. Sonic tries to find Tom, and he sees this happening, and he gets really fucking pissed. And I'm talking really mad. This is one of the moments where I was saying, like, Sonic really loses his character in this moment, because he sees someone that he truly loves and cares about almost dead. It's very, like, it seems like he definitely dies. Shadow tells him, like, hey, I had to do what I had to do. I was defending myself. He shot first. He didn't say that. Shadow doesn't really care because he felt the pain of losing Maria, and he kind of sees that when Sonic was feeling, you know, sad, and Shadow just obviously doesn't care and still gets the fuck out. Tom is rushed to a hospital. Maddie, you know, is there with him, and then Sonic decides to take this to them at Robotnik and Gerald, because now they have the 2 key codes, and they're going on the Ark, and they're going to, you know, turn it on and activate it. This is obviously very bad news. Sonic realizes that he needs to do something, and earlier in the film they made a pact about, you know, like, they made a promise to each other that they wouldn't use the Master Emerald or the Chaos Emeralds to, like, use it whenever, and they also promised to never use it out of anger. Sonic has Knuckles be responsible for where the Master Emerald is, and he even tells him to, like, hey, give me the emerald, it's time to end this shit. Knuckles warns Sonic about using this out of anger, and it seems like they're like it seems like they're genuinely gonna beat the shit out of each other, because Knuckles tells Sonic to, like, chill out, that you can't take this journey, you can't go on acting like this or feeling this way, you need to stay positive. And Knuckles gives in. He doesn't want to fight and break up the team. He doesn't want to cause any more drama, and he tells Sonic where the emerald is. This is when we find out that Wade is playing hockey with the fucking emerald. Sonic shows up and is like, hey, give me the emerald. Wade's like, I can't do that, and he fucking takes it anyway, because what is Wade gonna do? And Sonic takes this emerald, goes supersonic, heads to space to chase after the Eclipse Cannon, because it has been woken up. Woke. And this is when they Gerald and Robotnik gets their new outfits, and Robotnik looks so fucking good. Stone even decides to talk to Eggman about what Gerald is really wanting to do, but this doesn't work. Eggman has been really fed up with Stone throughout this entire film, and even, like, replaces him or doesn't even like him anymore, because he now has Gerald, and those two want to rule the world. It's even in this scene, or at least around this scene, where, like, Gerald tells Robotnik, like, no, we're gonna blow up the fucking world. Like, yeah, we're not gonna rule it, even though Eggman wants to rule it. Shadow is still thinking about the pain that he felt, and he wants justice for what was done to him. So he agrees. Then, out of nowhere, into the distance, they see what they think is a missile, but it turns out to be supersonic. Supersonic coming in hard. Sorry. charges through the arc and beats the shit out of Shadow. And this is where the film just becomes straight up Dragon Ball. Obviously not really Dragon Ball, but like the fights in Dragon Ball, this is definitely what it will remind you of. And these two fight and battle it out a lot. Shadow even gets the upper hand on Sonic, and there's just so much that happens. Like Sonic tries to fight Shadow, but Shadow is just still powerful. And there's even a moment where Shadow, like, I believe, punches Sonic out of Super, and the emeralds are just there in this like one spot. And mind you, as they're fighting, they're like tearing up the planet on Earth, and as the emeralds are right there, Sonic and Shadow race to it to try to get it because Shadow sees this as ultimate power, and then they both get it. They both become super formed. And if you've seen the popcorn buckets at AMC, you probably knew this was going to happen. Obviously, like I said earlier, if you played Sonic Adventure 2, you probably knew this was going to happen eventually. Also, it's a shame because the trailers kind of spoiled this, and it's like, again, Sonic fans knew this was going to happen, but it would be cool if they were a little bit more subtle about it. Like, even with the second film, like, there is that one scene from an image from a trailer where Tom and Maddie are looking off into the distance and they see a glowing aura, and it's like, oh, I wonder what that is. For the future, guys, making the Sonic movies, if you could just, make the trailer and the promotional footage and images a bit more subtle and not blatantly obvious what's going to happen, that would be great. Again, Sonic fans knows, but it would be cool if it was left up to speculation. So these two fucking golden gods battle it out. Oh my god, it is so fucking cool. Shadow talks to Sonic about using power for revenge and questions his like morals and everything, and says like, I thought you were supposed to be a hero, but look at you right now. And oh my god, it's so fucking cool because as they're also fighting, they're punching each other through continents, and it's literally just like Dragon Ball. It's so fucking cool. And Shadow has an opportunity to even shit talk Sonic even more and says Tom's name. I believe that's what he said. And then Sonic gets really fucking pissed and charges at Shadow with one big punch and throws him to the fucking moon. And Sonic has a great opportunity to just literally end Shadow. Shadow talks to him about, just doing it, take it all out, let it all consume you. This is when Sonic realizes that he's taken it way too far. He's pushed away Knuckles and Tails. He remembers what Tom said at the beginning of the movie about not letting his past change him, and Sonic takes this opportunity to just stop, and he doesn't do anything more. In fact, he just let go of Shadow and just sits down next to him. Now, this scene is definitely very similar to the second film. I didn't want to say that before, but this moment definitely resembles what happened, in Sonic 2, where Sonic and Shadow has this moment to just stop and talk, and this is when they realize they both are wrong. They both didn't want to let their past change them. This is when Shadow realizes that Maria loved the planet so much and that this is not what she would want. Obviously, what happened and it's tragic, but she wouldn't have want Shadow to be this or to do this to the world. Maria loved the world so much and all the beauties of it and the stars, and Sonic also talks about how he needs to just not let the past hurt him. They both have a real connection. Mind you, they're all sitting on the moon while this is happening, and the Eclipse Cannon is charging up, unfortunately. And then they decide to do what everyone was fucking waiting for. They decide to team up, work together, and stop the Eclipse Cannon from destroying the Earth, the place that Maria loved so much, and the home of Sonic. And, well, of course this was gonna happen. What do you think fucking happened? The Chaos Emeralds comes to them, and they both go super. And my god, even just thinking and talking about this is so fucking cool. I can't tell you what it's like to see this in the big picture. Sonic Adventure 2 came out so long ago, and even that ending with Shadow and Sonic teaming up to go super to fight the Bio Lizard, that was so crazy. And I can only imagine what kids and people were, what their reactions were. And here it is, being remade for the big screen for modern days. And it will always be one of the greatest moments in video game history. I do not care what anyone says. Sonic and Shadow teaming up like this to go super, it's iconic as fuck. And Of course, like I was alluding to, they play Live and Fucking Learned. Obviously, they don't play the real song, or they kind of do, but like a very edited version of it that fits the film. And my God, it is peak. It's just so fucking peak. They fly off. Shadow, it looks cool. Sonic looks cool. And Eggman and Gerald realizes what's going on. Eggman also isn't cool with Gerald anymore because he wants to at least rule the world, not blow it up. So he's kind of duking it out with Gerald. Oh, by the way, Stone is left behind on Earth. That'll come important later. But Gerald sends out some drones to stop Shadow and Sonic, and this is when they fucking fight these robots in space. It's cool. Shadow's using all these abilities, using their speed. They're teaming up, they're holding hands, becoming this like spinning blade weapon combo that Tails and Sonic does a lot. And then they fucking do the pose, the SA2 pose, where they make an X, and it was peak. It was peak. I can't exaggerate how peak it was. And again, I'm a Sonic fan, so I was going to love it regardless, but it's like I never would have expected this. This is the best way they could have done it. And again, they're playing Live and Learn in the background. What more can you ask for? So yeah, now that I stopped breathing so heavy, I can continue finishing this film review. So yeah, they fight the robots. Eggman is now taking this opportunity to stop Gerald because he realizes that he's been a kind of an asshole, and he doesn't want to blow up the Earth. So he takes this opportunity to fight Gerald off, but Gerald has this like technology to make anything, and they make some references about Green Lantern. It's a really funny fight, but Gerald eventually gets the upper hand over Robotnik, and it seems like Gerald is about to throw Eggman into space, and I was like, oh, are they actually genuinely, truly going to kill off Eggman? But it turns out Tails and Knuckles shows up, I believe, with one of their last rings, they show up, save Eggman, and they actually get the jump on Gerald, and they all work together to try to shut down the cannon because the Eclipse Cannon was going off. Shadow and Sonic sees this, and Shadow does Chaos Spear, by the way. I really wish he would have done Chaos Control at least once, but Shadow and Sonic realize they need to stop the beam, so they work together to stop the beam of the fucking Eclipse Cannon. Very similar to what happened in SA2. Obviously, they're no match because Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman are trying to like steer the laser off to not blow up, and Sonic is trying his absolute hardest to keep powering up, and turns out it's not enough for him. But Shadow is able to do it, and at least by himself for a little bit, and they steer off the laser cannon into this, and they piss on the moon, obviously. And they realize they're not done yet because the Eclipse Cannon is going to crash into the Earth and kill a lot of people. And Sonic is out of Super Juice. He's out of rings. Tails and Knuckles go out and try to save him with their last teleporter ring. And this is when Eggman decides to set things up for his final, act. He turns on some computers and makes a recording for the Earth. He tells everyone on the planet Shadow's a bitch-ass motherfucker. Sonic fandom really, truly ruined moments like this because obviously we can never not think about it. But on a serious note, Eggman makes an announcement and a message, or leaves a message to the world. He apologizes to Dr. Stone publicly, and he says, hey, if I can't rule the world, I might as well save it. He handles the Arc. I don't really know what he does. It's not the Arc. It's the Eclipse Cannon. It kind of is the Arc, but they don't call it the Arc in this film, by the way. It's a random tangent. But him and Shadow work together to basically stop this Eclipse Cannon from destroying the planet, or at least a section of it. Shadow pushes the Eclipse Cannon back away from the Earth, and he realizes he needs to power up more, so he takes off the limiter rings, I believe. They're called that, or the inhibitor rings, something like that. But he takes them off, and anyone knows when you take those rings off, you know shit's about to go down, because Shadow's going to power the fuck up. Of course, if you also know, this means Shadow is going to make a huge, huge sacrifice, because using this much power comes at a big cost. And Shadow helps... it's even funny. I don't even think it mattered, but Shadow helps the Arc stay away and blows it up. Okay, yeah, so that's what happened. Eggman was going to help blow up the Arc, and he had to stay there to, like, set things up. Shadow was just keeping it away from Earth at the time. Or maybe the Arc was already going to blow up as it lands. I don't know. Either way, the Arc blows up. Eggman and Shadow are dead. That's what I'm going to say right now. I'll get to it later. It definitely feels like Eggman might actually be dead this time. Please obviously keep listening to what I have to say, because if you know, Jim Carrey seemed like he was going to retire from acting, and we didn't really know what his last role was going to be, but then when it was announced he was going to return for Sonic 3, everyone was like, oh, I guess he's not retiring yet? And I assumed that this was going to be his opportunity to really say goodbye. At the end of SA2, it really feels like Eggman wanted to be a different person, didn't want to be this evil genius, emperor anymore. But obviously that's not the case for the games nowadays, because Eggman is still up and running and kicking. But Sonic as a franchise has so many more characters that they can use that they don't need Dr. Eggman. I feel like this trilogy, was good for Eggman as a character, and if we don't see any more of him, I wouldn't mind. Now, this leaves room for other people to be the next big villain. Like I said, there's so many other villains that could take his role, and there always doesn't have to be a permanent new villain like Eggman, or a constant villain. They can just keep having a new villain in every new film going forward. Hell, even Agent Stone could be the next big villain, or at least the next constant villain. But either way, Eggman is dead, as far as we know. And there isn't really anything to go off of to assume he's alive, because Sonic 4 just got announced. As far as it's gonna happen, we don't know anything. All we know it's happening. And of course, this is when we realize also that Shadow was also dead. For now, just keep listening. Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, as they were falling, makes it safely down to Earth with his last teleporter ring for now, until they find more. I guess these things are just found. I don't know how, but doesn't really matter. They save the world. Everything's fine. Sonic apologizes to everyone, and they look off into the sky and realize what a hero Shadow really was, and they promise to, always be friends and, stay close. Then the movie ends with Sonic and his friends and family enjoying the nature, having lots of sugary snacks and s'mores and all that. This is when we find out that Tom is actually alive. He's not dead. And, it's a very happy ending, and it really sets off an ending that, if you wanted to just watch the first 3 movies, I'm praying that the 4th one is still good too. But as far as I know, and everyone who's reviewed this, the trilogy is a good trilogy. And yeah, that ends the movie. Sonic runs off into the distance for another running experiment, and the credits roll. But that's not the end of the film. Again, if you walked out of the film after that, there's a lot more. Well, not a lot, but there's still more to know about what happened. As you know, there's post-credit scenes in modern films. Super special warning if you haven't seen it, but Sonic runs out into the night, and he sees in the distance that he's by himself, or then he sees a teleporter ring opens up, and out comes Metal Sonic. Dun dun dun. And then it turns out it's not just Metal Sonic, it's fucking Revenge of Cooler. Multiple Metal Sonic comes out and tries to fuck up Sonic. No one knows where these androids are coming from, that they're attacking Sonic, and it seems like Sonic is in trouble because they all try to beat the shit out of him. Until he is rescued by none other than Big the Cat. Yep, he's in the fucking franchise. Big the Cat with Froggy. I can't believe I literally screamed, and I even did a backflip. Oh my god, everyone cried, everyone cheered, everyone loved it so much. I'm kidding. That's not what happened. It was Amy. Amy. I wanted her to be in this film, but the movie's all about Shadow, so I understand why. But Amy shows up, beats the shit out of these Metal Sonics with her big ass hammer, and she doesn't say a single word, so we don't know who's voicing her. But yeah, Amy is in this fucking franchise now. She is the next character that we're gonna be seeing. Then the next scene, we go back to where the arc crashed, and we see a little hole in the ground. We see one of the limiter rings. We get to see Shadow sacrificed his life. He was a hero. Not today, bitch! Shadow comes and fucking picks that shit up. They don't show his face. They don't show what he's looking like, but he picks it up, and alluding to the fact that he is alive. And then the movie ends and everyone goes home. Right now I'm going to include some scenes of my, reactions, because I thought it'd be fun to just see me freak out. Also, at the end of the film, I had to use the bathroom really bad. So, like, I had to, like, run to the bathroom, then run back to see the post-credit scenes. But there was a nice little animation sequence of the end scene that explained the whole movie. They did this with the first two films, but yeah, it's really good with this one. So definitely stay for all of it, and don't drink too much water or Pepsi.
Hammer. That was pink.
Pro tip: if you're gonna take a shot at the fastest creature in the universe, you better not miss. I'm flattered by the cosplay, but you got a few details wrong. This way, it's hard to copy perfection.
Oh, multiple. It's metal cooler. Amy, is it? I knew it! We did it, boys. Oh, you know. Who's the voice actor? Say, talk. No, who's the voice actor? No. No. Alright, it better be Rouge the Bat. Rouge the Bat. Of course, Eggman survived. Oh, Timmy. Who is it? Hey! I'm not dead, Mitch.
And yeah, that's really all I want to talk about as far as this film goes. We're now going to just end up things with this. I thought this movie was absolutely fantastic. If you were a Sonic fan, like I said, you were going to love this film. There are things to criticize about the film. It is not perfect, obviously. Throughout the year, Sonic has had a lot of downs. I don't even need to begin to talk about it. Go to other videos to understand what I'm talking about. The fandom is very interesting. It's very much alive and very active. And Sonic fans have just been eating good ever since, honestly, the first Sonic movie. Yeah, I want to say it's been about almost 5 years. Sega has had some mistakes here and there with certain things, and, you know, they continue to fix it, and they try their best, honestly. And it's good to know that Sonic is just in a good place right now. Sonic isn't going anywhere. Sonic is way more popular than ever before, and it's funny to say this, but I'm just gonna say it. It's no longer an insult to, like, be a Sonic fan, because this movie is getting amazing receptions. It's getting 88s and 89s from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, that is just unheard of for a Sonic movie. I was questioning, like, what the hell? What's going on? The critics love it this much? But yeah, that leads me to my final words, my score. With everything being considered, I have to give this movie a 9 out of 10. There is very little to dislike about this film, and there is so much to love. I know the term fan service is being thrown around a lot, and that can ruin a movie if it's very obvious and blatant and used in poor taste. But this movie fucking redefines what fan service is, if anything. This movie just blew my expectations out of the water. I was not expecting it to be this good. And even non-Sonic fans are watching this film and even being like, wow, this is actually really good. Like, this is what the Sonic franchise is, and it's really cool to see. I don't know what's going to happen with Sonic in the future. Jeff Fowler said they're going to keep making as many more of these movies and projects as long as they keep doing well, and they have no plans of stopping. I'm pretty sure that's what he essentially said, but there will be more movies. There hopefully will be more TV shows. Yeah, the last thing I want to say is, like, this is what happens when you get people who love the franchise behind adaptations. This is what happens when you do that. You get major successes, and I hope this is a lesson for all the other studios, Paramount and Halo. If you want to make money off of a Halo series, how about you start hiring people who actually love Halo? Shouldn't be that simple. you need to get people who are passionate about this. If their priority is, I want to make a profit or I want to turn a profit and we're going to hit all these margins, then you're doing it fucking wrong. Because the fans are gonna be interested in it no matter what. Like, do you genuinely think that Halo fans wasn't at the very least going to check out the Halo series at least once? Same with the Sonic franchise. Do you honestly expect Sonic fans to not at least give these movies a chance? So you already have them in the palm of your hands just by saying like, hey, we're gonna make an adaptation of this video game and we really hope that fans love it. They're going to go and support it. Now, I'm not trying to say use this as like bait or whatever, but you should know when you're gonna make a project about something, you're gonna have support, and you need to continue that support. You need to get people behind it or who are making it that actually are going to, you know, truly do it service. Please, for the love of God, get people who like the franchise behind these projects. This movie is probably going to be, maybe, and who knows, because people are talking about this movie also. This film could beat Mufasa, a Disney movie, a sequel or a prequel to The Lion King 2019, which at one point was the highest grossing animated film. Yes, animated. It is an animated film. And Sonic is about to beat, you know, the prequel to that film. But it's very early in the day. It's Friday as of recording this, the 20th. People are starting their vacations. Please, if you're a parent out there, if you know someone who's a child who likes Sonic, if you're a parent who has kids who like Sonic, if you have ever had any interest in Sonic at any point in time, if you loved Sonic Adventure 2, please go watch this film. I highly recommend it. I have been speaking for an hour now at this point about how good this film is, and I really hope everyone can appreciate the work I did. I cannot give this movie any more praise than I already did. I thought that I was fair and just and, you know, straightforward with everybody about what was wrong with this film. And I feel like the criticism that I had was, you know, fair. I don't want to say this movie is perfect. Like I said, there's some pacing issues, there's some cheesiness, there's some corniness, all this and that, and there's some weird animation issues here and there that was kind of cringy to look at. You could definitely pretty much tell how this film was going to go based on me saying, if you like Sonic Adventure 2, you should go watch this. You probably know what's going to happen. Still, they did an amazing job. There's very few points that are bad in this film, and even the bad wasn't even like that bad, just more like meh, you know. But then there are just moments that are just absolutely phenomenal, absolutely done so well. I can't praise this movie anymore. Go see it. That's all I really want to say to everyone. Thank you all for listening to me talk for an hour. This is probably going to be the longest video that I've uploaded that isn't a stream. I know I was going to do the Avatar series, but that's neither here nor there, whatever. But yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a great movie. You will like it if you at least kind of like Sonic or are interested in Sonic. Please go watch it. Again, I don't know what to say here. I'm losing my mind. I'm tired. I'm hungry. If you like this video, please like, please subscribe, please do all that in there and leave a comment. You all have a nice one. Stay fast.